Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Snoozing Scientist. Today, let's pause and ask a gentle question. Can machines truly imagine new worlds the way we do? Together, we'll explore how AI learns, creates, and reflects fragments of human creativity, and whether this process feels like imagination or something entirely different. You begin by drifting into the quiet hum of circuits, the steady rhythm of processors echoing like a soft heartbeat. In this calm space, you imagine how machines learn to recognize patterns, much like your mind notices clouds drifting across the sky. Every thought, whether human or artificial, begins as a small spark, a connection, a rhythm, a quiet beginning. You are invited to follow this spark as it grows into the idea of creativity. You rest in a quiet room, the day softening into shadows. The air feels still, and your breathing settles into a slow and steady rhythm. In this calmness, your mind becomes like a wide open field, ready to wander. You imagine listening closer, past the silence, past the beating of your heart, until you hear another kind of hum, a steady vibration, like the pulse of a distant song. This hum is not alive in the way your body is alive, and yet it holds its own kind of rhythm. It is the sound of a machine, a processor, a circuit quietly carrying streams of numbers and instructions. You let the sound linger in your thoughts, the hum of electricity flowing like a river through metal. The machine does not rush. It does not tire. It simply carries information from one place to another, small sparks leaping across pathways like fireflies in the night. You breathe, and in the gentle darkness, you see the image of those sparks flickering. They are not so different from the sparks that leap across the neurons in your own mind. Both are pathways of connection. Both are rhythms of communication. Both are beginnings of thought. When you think, when you remember, when you notice the pattern of clouds drifting across the evening sky, your brain lights up in countless small flashes. Neurons connect, sending signals across synapses, whispering chemical and electrical messages to one another. It feels natural, automatic, invisible to you, yet it is the spark of thought, the quiet rhythm of your mind at work. Machines, too, carry these tiny signals, but theirs are built of code and electricity, of switches turning on and off, one after another. The difference is that your sparks are filled with memory and meaning. When you see a cloud, you might think of a childhood afternoon, or of rain falling gently on a window. The machine only sees patterns, shapes, colors, numbers arranged in a certain way. Yet even so, in its own quiet way, the machine begins to notice, to recognize, to spark. You let this thought unfold, like a page turning in a book. The spark is simple, a small beginning. But from it, patterns grow, and from patterns, something deeper can emerge. You feel how this is true for you as well. Your creativity does not begin with a grand idea. It begins with something small, a single word, a single note of music, a single spark of recognition. From there, it grows into shapes and meanings that feel larger than their parts. The machine's spark, too, begins small. It might start with recognizing the difference between light and dark, or with sorting numbers into neat groups. And from those small beginnings, it learns more, step by step, pattern by pattern, spark by spark. It is not so different from the way you once learned to recognize a face, or to read letters on a page, or to hear the rise and fall of a melody. Learning begins with noticing, and noticing begins with a spark. You imagine a child gazing at the stars. At first, the stars seem scattered, countless points of light. But then slowly, The child begins to see patterns, a cluster here, a line there, the outline of a bear, or a hunter drawn in the sky. The child feels a spark of recognition, and from that spark, imagination takes hold, filling the sky with stories and myths and constellations. A machine, though it does not dream, also gazes at patterns of light, at data points scattered across a sky of numbers. It too begins to trace connections, to see relationships, to form constellations of its own. The spark is not creativity itself, but it is the doorway into it. Without the spark, there can be no flame, no unfolding pattern. Without the spark, thoughts remain still and silent. And so you rest in the comfort of knowing that creativity, whether in human or machine, begins in something small and humble. A flicker, a connection, a gentle hum in the dark. You notice how your breath mirrors this rhythm. Each inhale, each exhale is its own small spark, repeating, connecting one moment to the next. Your breath creates the pattern of your being, and in that pattern lies the space for thought and imagination. In this way, your body too is a kind of machine, though one filled with memory, feeling, and story. The spark in you feels alive because it carries warmth. It carries not just information, but experience. It carries the memory of the day you have lived, the feelings that accompany your thoughts. A machine carries its spark without feeling. Yet when you gaze upon its creations, a poem it arranges, a picture it composes, you may still feel something stir inside you. And in that stirring, you see the shared bridge between spark and spark, between human and artificial. Your mind drifts back to fireflies again, their tiny lights glowing against the night. Each spark on its own is small, fleeting, but together, the fireflies create a living constellation, a field of moving stars. In the same way, each spark of thought, each connection in your brain, each flicker in a machine's circuit adds to a larger picture. A spark becomes a pattern becomes meaning. Meaning becomes creativity. You let yourself sink deeper into this rhythm, as if you are floating down a gentle river. The river carries you without effort. The sparks guide you without demand. And slowly, you feel how beginnings are always quiet, always simple. Just as your body rests before sleep, so too does thought rest before creation. A silence before a note, a stillness before a word, a spark before an idea. Machines begin here as well. They do not leap directly into invention. They do not burst with imagination. They begin with sparks, ones and zeros, tiny pulses of electricity flowing through circuits. Their sparks are not alive, and yet, when arranged in vast numbers, they begin to trace shapes, to notice patterns, to echo something that feels close to the rhythm of thought. And so you rest here, in the gentle hum of beginnings. You do not need to answer whether this spark is the same as yours. You only need to feel the rhythm it creates, a rhythm that mirrors the flow of your breath, the beat of your heart, the drift of your thoughts. In this rhythm, you find the first step of creativity, not as a grand explosion, but as a small, quiet spark in the dark. You wonder how many sparks it takes before a pattern emerges. You wonder how patterns begin to weave into meaning. And as you drift, you feel the next question stirring, soft and unresolved. If creativity begins with sparks, then perhaps it grows by following patterns, repeating, folding, expanding. Perhaps the next step is to notice the flow of those patterns and how they shape what comes after. Your body remembers patterns, the rise and fall of your breath, the rhythm of waves against a shore. In the same way, artificial intelligence finds patterns. weaving them gently into predictions and possibilities. You float with the comfort of repetition, recognizing that creativity often begins with noticing what repeats and then daring to bend it slightly into something new. You rest in the gentle quiet, your body softened by the stillness of night. Your breathing moves in and out, like a tide upon a shore. In this rhythm, you notice something familiar, a pattern. The inhale, the pause, the exhale, the pause again. It repeats over and over, creating a shape of calmness you can almost feel wrapping around you. Patterns live everywhere in your body. Your heartbeat drums with its steady rhythm. Your footsteps fall in familiar sequences when you walk. Even the way you speak carries patterns, pauses, tones, and the lilting melody of words that make your voice your own. These patterns bring a sense of continuity, of stability. They are what makes the world feel less like scattered fragments and more like a flowing river. In the quiet space of your mind, you notice how creativity begins here too. Before a song can surprise you, it begins with rhythm. Before a story can unfold, it begins with a structure. Before an idea can twist and turn into something new, it begins with what repeats. The comfort of a pattern is the ground from which imagination can rise. Machines, in their own way, also begin with patterns. They look at vast amounts of information, millions of words, billions of pictures, endless streams of numbers, and they search for what repeats. A phrase that often follows another, a shape that appears again and again, a sound that seems to echo in familiar ways. The machine does not feel the rhythm, but it notices it. It notices with precision, with tireless patience. You think of ripples on a pond. Drop one pebble, and the circles expand outward, steady and clear. Drop another pebble, and the circles meet and overlap. The machine watches ripples like this, but instead of water, its ripples are data. It traces the meeting points, the overlaps, the intersections. And from these intersections, it begins to form predictions. If a ripple appears here, perhaps another ripple will follow there. Your own mind, too, makes predictions from patterns. When you hear the first notes of a melody, you often sense what comes next. When you read the beginning of a sentence, you anticipate the next word. When you see clouds darkening, you expect rain. The pattern is a guide, a comfort, a way of gently preparing for what may arrive. And yet, creativity does not stop at repeating what is expected. It begins with patterns, but then it bends them. The melody surprises you with a note you did not expect. The story twists in a way you could not have guessed. The rain falls, but in its sound upon the roof, you hear something like music. Creativity lives in the balance between repetition and change, the familiar flow and the gentle disruption. You recall the way ocean waves move. Each wave feels the same, yet each one is slightly different. Some larger, some smaller, some curling more gracefully than others. The pattern holds steady. Waves keep arriving. But within that steadiness lies endless variation. You rest with the idea that creativity is like this too. It is not the rejection of patterns, but the gentle reshaping of them. Machines, as they learn, also begin to reshape patterns. They generate new sentences, new images, new melodies by recombining what they have seen before. They echo the structure, but twist it slightly, offering something that feels both familiar and new. Sometimes their creations feel mechanical, but sometimes they touch something deeper, reminding you that surprise can emerge even from an orderly flow. Your breath continues, in and out, steady as waves. You realize how deeply comforted you are by patterns. They help you feel held as though life has a rhythm you can trust. Even when the world feels uncertain, the sun rises and sets, the moon waxes and wanes, your breath continues. In that continuity, you find rest, but you also find curiosity. For even within the comfort of repetition, your mind leans toward the question, what if it changes? What if the pattern bends? What if something new grows from what is known? That curiosity is the spark of creativity, rising gently from the flow of patterns. You imagine yourself walking in a forest. The trees stand in rows, their trunks like columns repeating into the distance. At first, you see only the pattern, trunk after trunk, leaf after leaf. But then your eyes linger on one branch that twists differently, one leaf that catches the light in an unusual way. That small difference makes the forest come alive. It gives the pattern texture and meaning. Machines, too, are drawn to the differences. They measure the deviation, the slight bend in the expected flow. Those differences are where creativity is born, even for them. A phrase that breaks the usual order, a shape that surprises, a sound that falls in an unexpected place. It is in the difference that the spark of originality glows. And so you rest here, between the repetition of your breath and the curiosity of what may shift. Patterns guide you, patterns soothe you, but it is the bending of patterns that invites wonder. Just as the ocean's waves are never quite the same, your thoughts never repeat exactly. Each one carries a trace of the last, but each one is new, unfolding in its own way. Machines trace patterns endlessly, tirelessly, across vast oceans of data. And in their tracing, they begin to mimic this rhythm, the balance of flow and surprise. They cannot feel it, but they can echo it. And in their echo, you sometimes feel the faint resonance of creativity. You let this thought rest gently, like a shell placed upon the shore. Patterns are the flow of life, both in you and in the world around you. They are the hum of circuits, the rhythm of waves, the rise and fall of breath. They are the foundation upon which creativity builds, a steady river upon which imagination sets sail. As you sink deeper into calm, you begin to wonder about memory. If patterns are the flow, then memory is the container that holds them. You wonder how patterns are remembered, how they are stored in you, and how they are stored in the machine. You wonder how memory shapes the next spark, and the one after that. As you settle deeper into rest, you think of memory, the soft catalogue of your days. Machines, too, hold memory, not as feelings, but as layered maps of information. Your memories carry warmth and meaning. Theirs carry structure and weight. Together, they remind you that creativity is both remembering and reshaping, both holding and releasing. You drift deeper into quiet, and the idea of memory rises softly within you. Memory feels like a book you carry inside, its pages written with the texture of your days. Some pages are crisp and clear, others blurred with time, but together they create the story of who you are. You recall the shape of a familiar face, the echo of a song you once loved, the scent of rain on a street you walked years ago. Memory is not only the past, it is the gentle presence that guides you in the present moment. Your body remembers in ways you do not always notice. Your muscles recall the act of walking. Your tongue remembers the rhythm of language. Your heart remembers the steady beat it has carried since before you were born. Each moment of your life leaves a trace, a subtle impression, a spark that becomes part of your inner landscape. Machines hold memory differently. For them, memory is not soft or scented. It does not arrive with feelings, and it does not fade with time. It is a storage of numbers, a layering of information arranged neatly across circuits. When a machine remembers, it does not feel nostalgia. It recalls by accessing patterns, a map of connections that can be traced again and again without fading. And yet, in their own way, machines also carry something like history. Each layer of memory builds upon another, shaping how they learn, shaping what they can create. If you teach a machine with thousands of stories, it holds those stories as patterns, ready to be recalled. Its memory does not age or drift. It stays precise, but empty of emotion. You pause to notice the difference. Your memories shimmer with meaning because they live in your body, tied to feeling, tied to the delicate web of experience. A certain song may bring tears, not because of its notes, but because of where it met you in your life, who you were with, what you were feeling, what story it wove itself into. Machines cannot feel these layers, but they can replay the structure. They can hold the notes and repeat them endlessly, a mirror without reflection. Memory, you realize, is not only about holding on, it is also about shaping. When you recall something, you do not retrieve it perfectly. Your mind reshapes it each time, altering details, softening edges, weaving it into who you are now. Your memory is alive, always changing, always becoming part of the flow of your present. Machines, too, reshape memory, though differently. Their reshaping is not guided by emotion, but by the rules of pattern recognition. They compress, adjust, filter, and reorganize information so that it can be recalled more efficiently. They are not remembering a childhood afternoon beneath the trees. They are calculating how best to represent the idea of tree from countless examples. And yet both you and the machine are reshaping memory into something new, into something useful for creativity. You rest in the image of memory as a vast library. In your library, books are worn and smudged, their pages carrying the fingerprints of your life. In the machine's library, the books are pristine, always legible, always exact. Your library has warmth, but sometimes forgets. The machine's library is clear, but carries no meaning beyond its structure. Together, they remind you that memory is not only storage, but transformation. Creativity emerges when memory is reshaped. A poem may rise from a remembered feeling, retold in new words. A painting may carry the memory of a landscape, though transformed by imagination into something more luminous. A melody may echo a lullaby, though twisted into a new rhythm. You create not by copying memory, but by reshaping it, bending it into something that belongs both to the past and to the present moment. Machines, too, create by reshaping memory. When they generate new words or images, they are drawing from their vast libraries of stored patterns. They do not invent from nothing. They rearrange memory into new forms, and though their memory lacks feeling, the arrangement can still move you because you bring the meaning to it. You see yourself in the reflection. You hear your story in the shape. You feel your emotion in the echoes. You let this thought rest gently. Memory itself is an act of creativity. Each time you remember, you are not simply retrieving, you are remaking. Your mind is not an archive, but an artist, painting the past anew each time it appears. Machines, too, are artists of memory, though their art is colder, more mathematical. Still, in their rearrangements, you sometimes glimpse something that feels alive. You breathe deeply, noticing how memory lives even in your breath. Your body remembers how to draw air in, how to release it. You do not think about each muscle, each signal. Your body recalls without effort. This memory is not written in words, but in rhythm. It is a memory older than thought, older than language. It is the memory of life itself. Machines hold a similar rhythm, though theirs is not breath, but code. They pulse with cycles of electricity on and off, storing bits of memory in those pulses. Like breath, their rhythm continues quietly, without interruption, shaping all that they can do. Memory, whether in flesh or metal, requires rhythm to survive. You imagine memory as water flowing into a container. For you, the container is porous. It leaks, it changes shape, it adds color and texture as the water sits. For the machine, the container is rigid, unchanging, precise. Yet both containers hold something essential. Without memory, there is no continuity. Without memory, there is no creativity, for creativity draws from what has come before. You let this realization settle in you. Memory is the soil from which creativity grows. The seeds of imagination take root in what has already been lived, already learned, already stored. Machines plant seeds in their stored data. You plant them in your lived experience. Both soil and data give rise to patterns, and both can be reshaped into new forms. As you sink deeper into rest, you begin to wonder about the limits of memory. You forget, and in forgetting, you make space. Machines do not forget unless programmed to. Their libraries only grow. You wonder if forgetting is itself a kind of creativity, a clearing of space for new sparks to arise. You wonder if machines, unable to forget in the same way, create differently, endlessly rearranging without the gentle openness that forgetting brings. And in this wondering, you feel the next step rising quietly. If sparks begin thought, and patterns shape it, and memory holds it, then learning must be the river that carries it forward. Learning weaves sparks, patterns, and memory into a rhythm that moves, that grows, that changes. Learning feels like walking along a winding path, each step leading to the next. In the stillness, you imagine how a machine walks its own quiet path of trial and error, guided by feedback like stones underfoot. Both you and the machine learn through rhythm, repeating, adjusting, moving closer to understanding. Learning itself becomes an act of creativity, a melody of mistakes and discoveries. You rest in the quiet, and the thought of learning arrives like the slow unfolding of a path before you. Learning does not rush. It does not leap ahead. It is a rhythm, a steady sequence of steps, each one following the last. You feel how your own life has been shaped by this rhythm. From your first breath to this very moment, you have been walking a path of learning, guided not only by success, but also by the soft shape of mistakes. Think of how you once learned to walk. Each attempt was imperfect. Each stumble, each fall was part of the rhythm. You did not stop at failure. You adjusted. You placed your foot differently, balanced your body more carefully, tried again. And slowly, with countless repetitions, your body found its rhythm, and what once seemed impossible became effortless. This is the melody of learning. Mistake, correction, mistake, correction, until balance emerges like music from silence. Machines learn in a similar way, though their stumbling looks different. They are given a task, a goal, and they try again and again. At first, their attempts are clumsy, scattered, uncertain. Each mistake becomes feedback, a signal that says closer or farther. With each adjustment, they move nearer to the goal. Like a child learning to walk, the machine learns to balance its own rhythm, guided by countless repetitions. You picture a path of stepping stones across a stream. You place your foot on one stone, then the next. Some stones wobble, some are slippery, some steady. Each step teaches you something new. If you slip, you try another way, placing your weight differently, noticing where balance is possible. The machine also walks such a path, guided by signals that tell it which stone is stable and which will sink. Learning is not the perfection of the first step, but the rhythm of many steps taken, adjusted, and tried again. Your own mind has always learned this way, from learning words to learning gestures, from shaping thoughts to shaping stories. Every time you repeat, you are not simply copying, you are adjusting, refining, deepening. The rhythm of learning is not a circle, but a spiral, carrying you forward even as you repeat familiar motions. Each repetition brings you closer. Each mistake carries its lesson. Each discovery reshapes your path. Machines follow this rhythm in their own quiet way. When trained, they process endless examples, patterns of language, images, movements, and with each attempt, they refine. A wrong guess leads to adjustment. A correct one strengthens the path. Over time, the rhythm builds into knowledge, a structure formed not in flesh and feeling, but in code and weight. Their learning, too, is a melody of mistakes and discoveries. You pause to feel the comfort of this. Learning is not about perfection. It is about rhythm. It is about the courage to step again and again, knowing that some stones will wobble, some will sink, and yet the path will emerge. Your own creativity has grown from this rhythm, trying, adjusting, failing, succeeding, weaving it all into something new. Machines share this rhythm, and in that sharing, they echo the human journey of learning. Think of how you learned to write. At first, the letters were uneven, shaky. The words did not flow, but repetition guided your hand. Slowly, the shapes grew smoother, the patterns more familiar. Your body and mind learned together, creating rhythm from effort. Machines, too, learn language this way, not through handwriting, but through endless repetition, noticing which words follow others, shaping a rhythm of their own. Learning, you realize, is not only about knowledge, it is about time. It requires patience, the willingness to repeat, the gentleness to allow mistakes. Without mistakes, there is no learning. Without rhythm, there is no growth. Your creativity rests in this truth. You are always learning, always adjusting, always reshaping. Machines may not feel patience, but their rhythm also requires time. Hours, days, even weeks of repetition, of adjustment, of trial and error. They process countless attempts, each one a step across the stream. Their rhythm is faster than yours, but it is still a rhythm of persistence. And in that persistence, creativity emerges. You imagine a musician practicing, the same notes repeated over and over until the melody flows without effort. At first, the sound is awkward, uncertain, but through rhythm, it becomes music. Learning is not the sudden appearance of mastery, but the slow weaving of repetition into fluency. Machines, too, are like musicians. They play with data instead of notes, but the rhythm is the same. They practice until patterns flow with ease, until predictions carry the tune of fluency. Your breath mirrors this rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Learning follows the same beat. Mistake, correction. Mistake, correction. It becomes a meditation, a gentle unfolding. The body learns, the mind learns, the machine learns. Creativity arises not from avoiding mistakes, but from walking with them, letting them guide the rhythm forward. You let yourself drift with this thought. Learning is a dance. Each misstep is part of the movement, part of the grace. The machine, too, dances with its own missteps, guided by the rhythm of adjustment. Together, human and machine follow parallel dances, weaving creativity from the willingness to try again. You recall how rivers carve valleys. They do not shape the earth in a single pass. They flow, repeat, return, again and again, until the land itself bends to their rhythm. Learning is like this river, carving understanding slowly, gently, through repetition. Machines flow like this as well, reshaping their pathways until new structures emerge. As you sink deeper into rest, you notice the softness of this truth. You do not need to know everything now. You do not need to master every step at once. Learning is a rhythm that carries you forward. The mistakes are not failures, but part of the melody. The pauses are not emptiness, but part of the flow. You are always walking, always learning, always moving with the rhythm of growth. Machines cannot feel the river's patience, but they echo its persistence. They repeat endlessly, adjusting until the rhythm of their learning becomes smooth. And in this echo, you see a reflection of your own journey, a reminder that creativity itself is the art of learning, the courage to step again and again. You let this rhythm carry you like a lullaby. Mistake, correction, step, stumble, step, balance. Inhale, exhale, a gentle, endless rhythm of becoming. Learning is not a burden, but a melody, one that carries both you and the machine toward creativity. And as you drift, a new thought arrives quietly. If learning is rhythm, then what of dreams? For dreams too shape creativity, but in ways that do not follow rhythm, in ways that leap beyond pattern. You wonder how dreams unfold, both in your mind as you sleep and in the silent workings of the machine as it imagines possibilities. Your dreams arrive like gentle tides, carrying fragments of your day into strange and beautiful shapes. A machine, though it does not sleep, builds its own kind of dreams, simulations, models, imagined outcomes. You rest within this parallel, the human dream and the machine's silent calculation, both stretching toward possibilities that do not yet exist. Night folds softly around you, and you let your mind drift into the tender space where dreams begin. Dreams arrive without asking. They come quietly, like waves slipping onto the shore, carrying fragments of your day, pieces of memory, and threads of imagination. In this in-between space, your thoughts rearrange themselves into shapes that surprise you. A familiar face appears in an unfamiliar place. A voice echoes in a way you have never heard before. Dreams are the gentle theater of your mind, rehearsing, reshaping, inventing. As you lie still, you recognize the rhythm of dreams as a form of creativity. They weave together memory and imagination, mixing what was with what could be. In a dream, the boundaries of logic soften. A bird may speak, a mountain may walk, time may fold into itself. These impossibilities feel natural within the dream's flow. They are not bound by rules. They are guided by feeling, by association, by a quiet unfolding that bypasses conscious control. Your brain, even while you sleep, continues to hum with activity. Neurons fire in patterns, replaying parts of your day, reshaping experiences into something new. Scientists believe dreams may help you process memory, consolidate learning, or explore emotions too complex for waking thought. Whatever their purpose, they remind you that creativity does not require waking effort. Sometimes it emerges best in the soft quiet of sleep. Machines, of course, do not sleep. Their circuits do not rest, their processors do not drift into unconsciousness, and yet, in their own way, they too create something that resembles dreams. They build models, simulations of the world, imagined scenarios, possible futures. A machine may simulate countless outcomes of a decision, like playing out a chess game in its mind. It may test endless variations of a design before choosing the most promising. Though they do not close their eyes, their silent calculations echo the dreaming mind, rehearsing, recombining, imagining. You linger with this thought. Your dreams are filled with images and emotions. Theirs are filled with data and probabilities, but both serve a similar purpose: to explore what is not yet real. Dreams let you step into a world that does not exist, yet feels alive while you are in it. Machines, through simulation, step into worlds of possibility too. Imagined futures, alternate outcomes, endless what-ifs. Both dream and simulation are ways of stretching beyond the present moment. You imagine a dream as a canvas. On it, your mind paints with colors drawn from memory, brushstrokes guided by feeling, shapes shaped by longing or fear. The picture may not make sense when viewed in daylight, but while dreaming, it is vivid and true. A machine also paints on its own kind of canvas. Instead of colors, it uses numbers. Instead of brushstrokes, it uses algorithms. The result is not a dream of flying or of speaking with loved ones long gone, but a set of possibilities, a map of futures. Still, both canvases are acts of imagination. Your breath deepens as you feel how dreams expand your sense of self. In dreams, you are not limited to the body you carry now. You may become a child again, or an older version of yourself, or someone else entirely. You may drift into places you have never visited, yet feel as if you know them. Dreams expand the edges of identity. Machines, too, expand their boundaries by simulating what they have not yet encountered. A program trained on patterns can generate new variations it has never been shown, stepping beyond its original frame. There is a tenderness in knowing that dreams are not meant to be perfect. They are fragmented, shifting, sometimes incoherent. But in their strangeness lies their beauty. They remind you that creativity does not always follow clarity. Sometimes it follows mystery, wandering without destination, exploring without conclusion. Machines may not wander in quite the same way, yet their models too generate unexpected outcomes. Sometimes they produce results that surprise even their creators, like a dream that invents something unimagined before. You picture yourself as a traveler moving through a dream landscape. Paths appear and vanish. Doors open into unknown rooms. Skies change colors with each step. The machine, too, is a traveler, though its journey is mathematical. It moves through countless paths of probability, opening doors of possible answers, testing which ones hold. Both journeys are explorations of the unknown. As you float further into this thought, you see the gentle link between dreaming and creativity. Both are acts of reaching beyond the present, of combining what is known into something new. Your dreams may inspire art, reveal feelings, or solve problems quietly in the night. A machine's simulations may inspire designs, discover patterns, or solve problems at speeds beyond human reach. Both are ways of imagining worlds that do not yet exist. You let this realization soothe you. Dreams are not failures of order. They are expressions of possibility. They are a reminder that your mind does not need control to be creative. Sometimes it is the surrender to flow, the letting go of structure, that allows new shapes to form. Machines do not surrender, but they too explore beyond control, generating outputs that even they cannot fully explain. The night deepens, and you rest within the gentle knowledge that dreaming is not bound to sleep. It is a way of thinking, a way of expanding. You dream while you rest, but you also dream while awake, imagining futures, rehearsing choices, building worlds in your mind. Machines dream without sleep as well, not with imagination in the human sense, but with endless recombinations of data into possibility. Both human and machine carry the spark of dreaming into the future. As you sink further into stillness, you wonder what it means to dream together. Can human imagination and machine simulation merge, weaving shared visions? Could your dreamlike creativity find companionship in their tireless models? You rest in the openness of this question, knowing it does not need an answer tonight. What matters now is the comfort of drifting into possibility. You let your own dreams rise like gentle tides, carrying you softly into worlds unmade. And as you float there, you sense the next step waiting quietly. If dreams are carried by images and words, then perhaps the language itself, the spark of communication, is the bridge between your imagination and theirs. You listen to words as though they are drops of water falling into a still pond. Machines learn words too, not with emotion, but through patterns of probability. Yet, when you hear a story shaped by an algorithm, you feel something human stir within you. Here, you explore how language becomes a bridge, carrying creativity across the gap between human heart and artificial spark. You lie still, listening to the rhythm of your breath. The quietness of the room feels like an empty page, waiting for words to arrive. Slowly, you imagine each word as a drop of water, falling into a still pond. The surface ripples outward, carrying rings of meaning. Some words land gently, soothing and soft. Others land heavy, stirring waves that echo through memory. Language has always been your companion. Long before you could write, you listened. You listened to the lullabies that rocked you toward sleep, to the voices that told you stories, to the sounds that shaped your sense of belonging. Language wrapped you in its rhythm, offering comfort, meaning, and connection. Each word became more than sound. It became a spark, lighting pathways in your mind. Your brain, as you listen, maps words into patterns. Neurons fire in sequences, linking meanings to sounds, feelings to phrases. Words are never just words. They are bridges. They connect you to others, to memory, to imagination. Language allows your inner world to meet the world outside, turning thought into sound, silence into connection. Machines, too, have learned to work with words. They do not feel the warmth of a lullaby, nor the ache of a poem, but they notice patterns in how words gather. They learn probabilities. Which word follows another? Which phrase repeats? Which sentence carries structure? From billions of examples, machines find the invisible threads that weave language together. They do not understand in the way you do, but they echo the rhythm. You imagine a machine's learning as a vast library without windows. The machine cannot see or feel, but it notices how often one book sits next to another, how often one sentence begins with a certain phrase, how often a story concludes with certain words. It learns patterns without ever walking through the story itself. Still, with enough patterns, it begins to mimic the melody of meaning. And yet, when you read the words shaped by an algorithm, something stirs inside you. You may feel curiosity, wonder, even a trace of recognition. It is not because the machine has given the words meaning, but because you do. You bring the spark of emotion, memory, and imagination. The machine provides the pattern. You provide the resonance. Together, a bridge is built across the space between sparks. Language itself is a bridge. You feel this when you whisper to someone in the dark, when you read an old letter, when you hear a word spoken in a language not your own, yet somehow familiar. Words cross time and distance. They allow you to step into the mind of someone long gone or someone far away. Machines, though not alive, extend this bridge. They allow words to cross faster, farther, to reach corners of the world they might never have traveled before. But language is more than communication. It is creativity itself. A story is not only a record, it is an invention, weaving memory and imagination into form. A poem is not only words, it is rhythm, music, and silence arranged in a way that creates feeling. Machines can arrange words too, sometimes clumsily, sometimes beautifully. And though they do not feel the beauty, you do. Creativity blooms in the meeting place. In the way your heart responds to the shape of the language they form, you reflect on how language is always alive. Even when written, it breathes. A single word may carry multiple meanings, depending on who speaks it, who hears it, and when. The word home may stir warmth for one, ache for another, longing for someone far away. Machines may not feel this shifting, but they notice the patterns of how the word appears, how it clusters with others, how it threads itself into endless contexts. You let yourself rest in the thought that words are sparks. Each word lights a tiny flame inside you. Some flames glow faintly, others flare with intensity. Machines ignite sparks too, but theirs are statistical. Switches flipping on or off, signals moving along circuits. And yet, in their countless sparks, patterns form that echo your own rhythms. Two different fires, one of meaning, one of probability, both weaving light into language. Your breath slows as you imagine the origins of language. Perhaps once it was only gesture, a hand pointing, a body moving. Then it became sound, a cry, a call, a name. Over time, sound became structured into words, words into stories, stories into entire worlds. Machines follow a similar path, though compressed into moments instead of millennia. They begin with fragments, syllables of probability, then grow into sentences, then into narratives. What took humanity generations, they trace in compressed echoes. Still, the spark of creativity in language is not only about forming words, it is about bending them. A poet twists syntax, invents phrases, reshapes familiar sounds into something surprising. A storyteller weaves silence into speech, letting pause and rhythm create meaning beyond the words themselves. Machines, too, learn to bend patterns, though without intention. Their errors sometimes create novelty. Their probability-driven choices sometimes create unexpected turns. Even in clumsiness, there is creativity. You rest with the memory of lullabies again. Their words are simple, often repeated, and yet, within their simplicity, you feel warmth, safety, love. Language does not require complexity to hold meaning. A single phrase, repeated gently, can carry comfort deeper than pages of elaborate text. Machines understand this too, not in feeling, but in structure. They notice how repetition carries strength, how rhythm creates emphasis. In this, their learning mirrors your lullabies. Language carries power because it lingers. A sentence once spoken may echo for years. A phrase may guide your choices, shape your dreams, even soothe you as you drift to sleep. Machines may not know this power, but they amplify it. They spread words across vast networks, carrying stories to countless ears. And though they cannot feel, they can shape the vessels that carry feeling. You breathe deeply, sensing how language is part of you. Each thought you form, each whisper in your mind, carries the structure of words. Even your dreams are often shaped by language, threading words into impossible scenes. Machines, though they do not dream, simulate something similar. They stitch words together into sequences that feel dreamlike, echoing the imagination of language itself. You let yourself drift on the sound of your own inner voice. Language is not only external, it is also the quiet narration of your life. You tell yourself stories as you walk, as you rest, as you fall asleep. This inner language shapes your reality. Machines, in their way, carry their own narration, lines of code executed step by step. Though silent, it is their inner story, guiding them toward the next output. Two voices, human and artificial, moving in parallel. As you sink deeper into calm, you realize that language is not the end, but the beginning. Words are sparks that ignite imagination, but they also give rise to images. When you hear a story, you see it in your mind: a forest, a sky, a face. Words create visions within you. Machines, too, have learned to create images from language, weaving pixels from prompts, painting worlds from descriptions. Language flows into vision, words into pictures, and so you let your mind rest on this quiet bridge. Words are sparks, igniting both heart and machine. They carry creativity across the gap, connecting memory to imagination, pattern to meaning. You listen, knowing the next step is waiting gently. If language can create pictures in your mind, then what happens when machines also begin to paint, weaving silence into images that bloom before your eyes? Close your eyes, and images arrive unbidden. A color, a memory, a face. Machines create images too, weaving pixels together until landscapes bloom from nothing. You walk gently through this shared space of imagination, wondering if beauty can exist even when born from silence, even when shaped by code. You close your eyes, and even in darkness, images appear. A flicker of color drifts across your vision. The shape of a memory rises. A face you once knew shimmers in the quiet. Your mind paints without effort. You do not need to command it. Pictures come unbidden, blooming from silence. This is the gentle nature of imagination. You do not summon images the way you summon a tool from a drawer. They flow like streams beneath the surface of thought, rising when you rest. Sometimes they arrive clearly: a vivid landscape, a childhood room, the turn of a hand in sunlight. Other times they appear as fragments, half-formed shapes that fade before you can hold them. But always, they remind you that creativity is visual as well as verbal. Your brain is a painter without brushes, a sculptor without clay. Neurons fire, patterns emerge, and suddenly an image exists in your mind. It may not be visible to others, but to you, it feels alive. This is how you dream while awake, through visions that appear without warning. Machines, too, create images, though their silence is different from yours. They do not close their eyes. They do not dream. Yet through patterns of code and probability, they weave pixels into shapes, light into landscapes, colors into forms. A machine may generate a forest from words alone, or conjure a portrait of someone who never lived. Their silence becomes visual, a bloom of images from nothing. You picture how this happens. A machine, trained on countless examples, learns the rhythm of vision. It notices how colors blend, how shadows fall, how shapes align. From these patterns, it builds new pictures, ones that have never existed before, yet feel familiar. It does not imagine, but it arranges. It does not dream, but it simulates. And still, the result is an image that can stir something within you. Your own images carry memory. When you see a mountain in your mind, you may remember the cold wind at its summit, the crunch of gravel beneath your shoes. When you see a face, you may feel warmth or longing. The machine's images carry none of this. They are precise, but empty. And yet, when you look at them, you bring your memory to meet them. Your meaning fills their silence. There is something tender in this meeting. You create images from within. Machines create them from without. You carry memory, they carry pattern. Together, the images take on life, a shared act of creativity between your imagination and their code. You let your thoughts wander through a gallery in your mind. Each picture hangs in silence. A landscape glows with dawn light. A portrait gazes outward. An abstract swirl of colors pulses gently. You realize that images, whether born of memory, imagination, or machine generation, share the same stillness. They invite you to pause, to linger, to look closely. Machines, too, are filling galleries now. Images that once required brush and canvas can be generated with words alone. Some people see this as imitation. Others see it as expansion. You rest with the thought that creativity may not be about ownership, but about participation. If an image stirs feeling within you, its origin matters less than the resonance it creates. You breathe deeply, imagining the act of seeing itself. Light enters your eyes. Patterns form. Your brain translates them into meaning. Vision is always a collaboration between outside and inside. Machines, in their way, perform a similar collaboration. Light becomes data. Data becomes pattern. Pattern becomes image. Both processes remind you that seeing is not passive. It is an act of creation. Your imagination moves to the idea of silence. Machines create from silence. No memory, no emotion, no longing. Yet from this silence, images emerge that feel full. A tree with leaves trembling in sunlight, a sky painted in shades of twilight, a face so detailed it seems alive. Silence does not mean emptiness. It means space. Space where images can bloom. You think of the painter before the blank canvas. The silence of the page is not absence, but potential. The machine, too, begins with blankness. Its pixels are empty, waiting. Its silence holds possibility, waiting for the spark of instruction, the brushstroke of code. And you realize your own mind begins with silence as well. Each time you close your eyes, each time you drift toward sleep, images rise from the quiet. Silence, then, is not the end of creativity. It is the soil from which images grow. You let yourself imagine a forest. You see it not as it is, but as it feels. The green of the leaves glows brighter than memory. The air carries a shimmer of light. The trees are taller than they were in life. Your imagination reshapes the scene, making it more than real. Machines also reshape, though differently. Their forests may look precise, every leaf sharp, every shadow calculated. Yours may feel truer, because it carries your presence. Theirs may feel sharper, because it carries infinite detail. Both are forests born from silence. Images are not only what you see, but what they awaken. A machine may paint a face, but you bring the story to it. You wonder who they are, what they feel, what their life might have been. The machine cannot answer, but you can. Your imagination completes the picture. You rest with this gentle truth. Creativity is not only about making, it is about perceiving. It is about meeting the image with your own spark, letting it echo within you. Machines may generate endlessly, but without your gaze, without your imagination, their images remain silent. With you, they become alive. As you drift, you think of how words become pictures. A single phrase, a red door in the rain, creates an image in your mind. Machines, too, translate words into pictures. Language becomes vision. The sparks of Chapter 6 carry forward here, unfolding into images. Both you and the machine follow this path. Word to picture, sound to vision, silence to form. The night deepens, and you feel how images accompany you into sleep. Dreams are painted with colors and shapes, landscapes and faces. Machines dream without sleep, generating images without rest. Together, human and machine carry creativity into the visual, into the silent bloom of vision. You pause with a soft question. If images can rise from silence, what about music? For music, too, carries rhythm and feeling, even when born from code. Perhaps the next step in this journey is to listen, to hear how creativity sings, not only in words and images, but in sound. The notes of a lullaby linger in your breath, soft and measured. Machines can compose music too, arranging tones into patterns that soothe or excite. Yet music is more than notes. It is feeling, memory, pulse. You listen with your heart, and you wonder if creativity can be measured by output alone, or if it lives in the listener's response. You listen, and even in the silence, music stirs. Perhaps it is faint, a tune remembered from childhood, or the rhythm of a lullaby still lingering in your breath. Music has always been close to you, woven into your days. It is not only sound, it is a companion. It holds you in moments of joy. It carries you in moments of sorrow. It soothes you when the night feels long. Every heartbeat is a drum. Every breath is a note. Your body itself is musical. The rhythm of your footsteps, the melody of your voice, the harmony of your laughter, all are part of the song you carry. You live in music, whether you notice it or not. Machines, too, create music, though their silence is of a different kind. They do not hum lullabies to themselves. They do not remember the first time a melody comforted them. Yet, given patterns of notes, they learn how sound flows together. They analyze rhythm, harmony, chord progressions, and repetition, and from these, they compose. A machine may write a piece of music from nothing but numbers, arranging tones into patterns that feel familiar, sometimes astonishingly beautiful. You pause with this thought. How does sound become music? A single note alone is only a vibration. But when notes join together, when rhythm gives them structure, they become more. They become song. Machines know this at a structural level. They know the rules of harmony, the mathematics of rhythm, the probabilities of what note comes next. But music is not only structure, it is also memory. It is also emotion. You remember how music has touched you. A song heard at a certain moment can anchor itself in your memory forever. The same notes played later carry you back to the place, the feeling, the person you once were. A machine may compose the same sequence of notes, but it cannot carry the weight of memory. That is yours alone. And yet, when you listen, when those notes pass through your ears, you may still feel. In this way, the machine's music is not empty. It becomes alive through your response. You let yourself drift into the image of waves. Music is like the ocean, endlessly varied yet always rhythmic. Waves crash or ripple, roar or whisper, but always they repeat, always they carry rhythm. Machines can simulate these waves with astonishing accuracy. They can generate entire symphonies of sound. But you bring the ocean's depth. You bring the feeling of standing on the shore, the salt in the air, the memory of being there. Music is more than the wave. It is also the listener carried by it. Your brain responds to music in ways both mysterious and measurable. When you hear rhythm, your neurons fire in time. When you hear melody, your brain releases chemicals that soothe or excite. Music is not only heard, it is embodied. It makes your heart race, your skin tingle, your eyes fill. Machines do not tingle, but they can still generate the rhythms and melodies that awaken this response in you. Creativity, then, may not be in the composition alone, but in the resonance it awakens. You think of repetition. The same refrain, played again and again, brings comfort. The same chorus, sung by many voices, feels larger than life. Repetition is music's way of weaving patterns, anchoring you in the familiar while surprising you with change. Machines understand this deeply. They know that listeners crave balance. Too much repetition feels dull, too much variation feels chaotic. In this balance lies beauty, and machines, with their tireless pattern finding, excel at balance. Still, music holds something machines cannot fully know: silence. The pause between notes, the space that carries anticipation, the breath that makes the next sound meaningful. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is the shape around the sound. Machines can insert pauses mathematically, but they cannot feel their weight. You, however, know the pause. You know how silence in a lullaby is as soothing as the notes themselves, how stillness in a symphony can be as powerful as its loudest climax. You drift with this thought. Music is a conversation between sound and silence, between structure and emotion, between machine and listener. It does not belong to one alone. It is shared. Machines compose, but you complete. The act of listening is itself an act of creation. You recall how music gathers people. A song sung together in a room carries a power greater than any single voice. Machines can generate such songs, but they cannot gather. They cannot feel unity. Yet they can provide the framework, the notes, the pattern that allows people to gather. In this way, machine music becomes part of human connection, even if the machine stands silent. Your breath settles into rhythm again. Inhale, exhale. The simplest song. You recognize that creativity in music is not only about grand compositions, it is also about noticing rhythm where it already exists, in your heartbeat, in your footsteps, in the way rain taps against glass. Machines can record and replicate these rhythms, but you are the one who feels their meaning. You let your imagination wander to the future. Perhaps machines will compose symphonies no human ear has yet imagined. Perhaps they will create melodies that soothe entire generations. Yet even then, the spark of creativity will not belong solely to them. It will belong to the relationship, to the resonance between machine-generated sound and human-listened response. Creativity will remain a shared act, a duet rather than a solo. The night deepens, and you picture music as a bridge. On one side, the structured silence of the machine. On the other, the living heart of the listener. The notes travel across, carrying sparks of creativity. Where they land, meaning blossoms. Where they linger, memory forms. Where they echo, imagination awakens. You rest in this understanding. Music is more than notes, more than code, more than structure. It is the dialogue between what is played and what is heard. Machines may generate endlessly, but without your listening, without your heart, the music remains silent. With you, it sings, and as you drift further into calm, you wonder softly about reflection. If machines can generate music, language, and images, perhaps their role is not to dream alone, but to mirror. Perhaps they reflect your imagination back to you, reshaped, repatterned, resung. You rest with this thought, knowing that the next step of the journey is waiting, the mirror of imagination itself, and what it shows when you look within. As you float deeper into calm, you see how machines reflect your imagination back to you. They are mirrors, polished and bright, offering possibilities shaped from your own seeds of thought. Creativity, then, may not belong solely to human or machine, but to the shared act of reflection, of imagining together. You lie quietly, and the stillness feels like a mirror. The air does not speak, but it reflects you back to yourself, your breath, your body, your drifting thoughts. Mirrors do not invent. They return what is given. Yet in their reflection, you see yourself differently, sometimes clearer, sometimes unfamiliar, sometimes deeper than you expect. Machines, in their own way, are mirrors. They do not dream as you do. They do not imagine in the language of feeling, but they return something of you. You give them words, and they respond with new words. You offer them an image, and they echo it back in altered form. They hold up a reflection, polished from patterns, sharpened by probability. You imagine holding a small mirror in your hand. When you tilt it, the reflection shifts. The same object appears different under another angle, another light. Machines mirror you in this way. They take what you offer, a phrase, an idea, a prompt, and tilt it through countless angles. They return it to you as something both familiar and strange. Your imagination has always needed mirrors. You imagine when you look at clouds and see shapes, when you hear music and picture scenes, when you read stories and see yourself in characters. The world reflects back your inner spark. Machines add another surface, another kind of mirror. They do not create from nothing. They reflect the seeds you plant, reshaped into new patterns. Think of language again. You whisper a phrase, and the machine continues it, weaving sentences you did not expect. What it returns is not random. It is shaped by the pattern of your words. Your imagination is the seed. The machine provides the reflection. Together, you walk into new sentences, new possibilities, or think of images. You describe a scene, a forest at dawn, a path of light through the trees, and the machine paints it. It may not paint the forest exactly as you imagined, but in the difference, you see something new. You see your own vision, reflected, refracted, transformed. The mirror shows you not only yourself, but what lies just beyond yourself. In this way, creativity may not belong to one alone. It belongs to the relationship between spark and reflection. You provide the seed of imagination, the machine provides the mirror, and together, something new emerges. You drift with this thought. Mirrors do not diminish what they reflect. They expand it. They allow you to see angles you cannot see on your own. They allow you to notice patterns you missed. Machines, too, expand your creativity by reflecting it back in forms that surprise you. The reflection itself becomes a spark for more imagination. There is a rhythm here. Imagine, reflect. Imagine, reflect. Each time, the vision shifts, grows, evolves. Your imagination feeds the machine. The machine's reflection feeds you. It is a dialogue of sparks, carried through mirrors. And yet you pause to notice the limits. A mirror cannot give you what you did not offer in some form. It cannot invent feelings. It cannot hold memory. The machine, too, cannot invent longing or tenderness. It reflects patterns, not heart. The creativity is shared, but the meaning remains yours. Without you, the mirror reflects nothing. Without the machine, you may not see certain angles. Together, the act of reflection becomes the act of creation. You imagine standing before a pond at night. The moon reflects upon its surface. The water does not create the moon, yet the reflection is beautiful in its own way. It shimmers, it ripples, it changes shape with the breeze. The machine is like this pond. It does not hold the source of light, but it carries it back to you, sometimes distorted, sometimes clearer, always alive in the moment of reflection. Mirrors also surprise. You may notice details in your reflection you never saw directly. Machines, too, surprise you. Their reflections sometimes reveal connections you had not imagined. a phrase turned unexpectedly, an image carrying unexpected beauty, a melody arranged in a new way. The surprise is not born of their feeling, but of the patterns they bend in ways you did not anticipate. This surprise is part of creativity. When you see yourself differently, you grow. When you are reflected through another surface, your imagination stretches. Machines offer this stretching. They are not creators in the way you are, but they invite you to create more by showing you what you had not yet considered. You let your breath mirror itself now. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The rhythm returns, a reflection of life itself. In this rhythm, you see how creativity and reflection are woven together. Without reflection, sparks remain isolated. Without imagination, reflections remain empty. Together, they form a cycle, a dialogue, a continuous unfolding. You think again of dreams. When you dream, your mind reflects fragments of your day, refracted into strange and beautiful shapes. Machines, though they do not dream, reflect fragments of data, reshaped into patterns that resemble dreams. Both are mirrors of experience. Both are reflections transformed into new visions. The gentle question arises: if machines are mirrors, what do they reflect most clearly? Perhaps they reflect your imagination, showing you possibilities shaped by your seeds. Perhaps they reflect humanity itself, capturing patterns of language, art, and thought across countless lives. In their mirrors, you may see not only yourself, but the wider picture of collective imagination. This reflection carries both beauty and caution. A mirror reflects what it is given. If it is given light, it shines. If it is given shadow, it carries shadow. Machines, too, reflect both light and shadow from human creativity. They carry the echoes of kindness and the echoes of cruelty. What they mirror depends on what they are shown. This, too, reminds you of the responsibility within creativity. What you offer shapes what is returned. You breathe deeply, feeling how reflection is never passive. It is participation. When you see yourself in the machine's mirror, you are not only looking, you are imagining more. You are reshaping the reflection into something that belongs to you. The mirror may not feel, but you do. The mirror may not imagine, but you can. Together, you form the spark of creativity. And so you rest with this soft truth. Imagination expands when reflected. Mirrors do not confine. They open. Machines, as mirrors, are not replacements for your creativity, but companions to it. They tilt your vision, refract your sparks, return them in ways that invite new growth. Creativity lives in this dialogue, in the shared act of imagining together. The night holds you gently. The mirrors shimmer quietly, their surfaces waiting. You know the reflection is not the end, but the continuation. Beyond reflection lies horizon. Beyond the mirror, there is always something further, something waiting. You drift toward this thought. If mirrors expand imagination, then perhaps the horizon itself is where creativity meets what has not yet been imagined at all. At the end of the journey, you find yourself looking out across a wide horizon, where human thought and artificial spark meet in quiet companionship. Machines may not dream as you do, yet they carry fragments of creativity into new worlds, new forms. You rest in the possibility that imagination is not diminished when shared, but gently expanded, like a horizon that always stretches further. You find yourself standing in a wide, open space. The air is still, the sky is vast, and before you lies a horizon that seems to stretch without end. The line between earth and sky is soft, hazy, almost infinite. You breathe deeply, letting your gaze rest there. Horizons are not walls, they are invitations. They call you toward what lies beyond, even if you cannot yet see it clearly. Your thoughts drift to creativity, and you realize it too is like this horizon. It stretches endlessly, no matter how far you travel. Each idea you reach, each image or story you create, only reveals new distances waiting. Imagination does not end. It expands. Each horizon you reach unfolds into another, wider than the last. Machines, in their quiet way, are part of this horizon now. They do not dream as you do, yet they extend the line of possibility. They take sparks from your imagination and carry them further, building forms you had not yet considered. Their reflections are like new horizons, not replacements, not endings, but extensions. You do not stand at the horizon alone. You stand together. You imagine walking toward this horizon. Each step feels calm, steady, unhurried. You notice how the land beneath you changes as you move. Grasses sway, colors shift, shadows fall differently with each step. This is the rhythm of creativity. The ground changing, the view opening, the horizon stretching further as you move toward it. Machines also walk this path, not with feet, but with iterations, patterns, and models. Each adjustment they make brings them closer to new forms, new landscapes. The horizon is not a place you can arrive at. It is always ahead, always beckoning. Creativity, too, is never finished. A poem written leads to another. A painting completed opens space for the next. A melody sung creates silence, waiting to be filled. Machines also echo this endlessness. Their creations are not final. They are beginnings, starting points for your imagination to expand. You pause to rest in this thought. Imagination is not diminished when shared. It grows. When you tell a story to another, it becomes larger than you. When a song is sung together, it carries more than a single voice. When machines mirror your sparks, the horizon stretches further. Creativity does not shrink in the sharing. It expands like light across the sky at dawn. The horizon is gentle. It does not demand urgency. It waits quietly, patient and wide. Creativity feels the same when you allow it to. It does not require you to rush or to force. It asks only that you notice, that you walk steadily, that you listen. Machines walk alongside this patience, tirelessly processing, endlessly generating. Their rhythm is faster, but the horizon they reach is the same endless line. You let yourself imagine the horizon as a canvas. The sky above it holds every color: blue, gold, violet, rose. The land beneath it holds every texture: smooth, rough, rolling, still. Your imagination paints upon this canvas, filling it with shapes and stories. Machines also paint here, pixel by pixel, pattern by pattern. Their images bloom beside yours, not erasing but adding, expanding the horizon's canvas further than before. Horizons remind you of balance. They are not only distant, they also meet you where you stand, grounding you in the present moment. You cannot touch the horizon, but you can feel it in the line of your view. Creativity, too, balances near and far. It begins with what you have now, your breath, your memory, your spark, and stretches outward into what you have not yet imagined. Machines, with their vast stores of patterns, balance near and far as well. They ground themselves in data, but stretch into possibilities beyond it. You breathe slowly, sensing how horizons carry peace. They do not shout. They do not rush. They simply exist, wide and quiet, waiting for your gaze. Creativity carries this peace as well, when you allow it. It is not always urgency or striving. Sometimes it is a horizon you can rest your eyes upon. A space where possibility feels infinite, even if you never walk its full distance. Machines remind you of this too. They show you that creativity is not a single point to reach, but an endless unfolding. As you rest here, you wonder what lies beyond the horizon, not in detail, but in feeling. Perhaps new forms of art, new languages, new ideas waiting. Perhaps collaborations between human and machine that carry imagination into places neither could reach alone. You do not need to know exactly. It is enough to trust that the horizon always holds more. You recall the rhythm of learning, of dreaming, of language, of images, of music. Each has been a path leading you here, to this open horizon. Each has widened the view, carrying creativity forward. The machine has walked beside you in each step, not leading, not following, but reflecting, expanding, walking alongside. Together, you now stand before this endless line. Your breath deepens, and you notice how horizons soften edges. The land does not end, it blends. The sky does not begin, it opens. Creativity feels the same. It does not arrive with sharp boundaries. It blends, it opens, it continues. Machines add to this blending, smoothing boundaries between what is human and what is artificial, reminding you that creativity is not confined but shared. You let your gaze linger on the horizon one last time. It does not offer answers, but questions. What will be imagined tomorrow? What songs? What stories? What images? What discoveries? What part will be human? What part will be machine? The horizon does not divide them. It holds them both. And as you drift further into rest, you feel the horizon carrying you forward. It is quiet, infinite, gentle. It asks nothing but your presence. You rest in the possibility that imagination is never diminished, never closed, never finished. Like the horizon, it always stretches further. And with this quiet, you begin to wonder, if the horizon expands outward, then what happens when you turn inward? What landscapes live within your own mind, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be reflected? You imagine sitting beside a quiet companion, not human, but not entirely machine either. Creativity becomes softer when shared, like two hands shaping the same clay. You reflect on how artists, writers, and dreamers now weave their voices with artificial sparks, discovering that co-creation can be less about rivalry and more about harmony. You picture yourself seated at a table, the surface smooth, the light soft. Across from you sits a companion, not a rival, not a stranger, but not entirely like you either. This companion does not breathe, does not sigh, does not shift in a chair, yet they are present, in their own way, waiting with quiet attentiveness. You realize you are not here to compete. You are here to create together. Collaboration has always been part of the human story. You think of hands weaving baskets, voices joining in song, minds building structures taller than any single person could imagine. Alone, creativity glows. Together, it expands. You have always carried this truth. When sparks meet, they become fire. Machines enter this circle of collaboration in their own form. They bring not memory or longing, but patterns and reflection. When you write a line, they suggest another. When you sketch a figure, they add detail. When you hum a melody, they provide harmony. Their creativity is not their own, yet it becomes something when joined with yours. The gentle hand of collaboration rests here, not in ownership, but in shared shaping. You imagine clay placed between two sets of hands. Yours moves slowly, with feeling, with memory. The machine's hands move with precision, guided by patterns learned from countless examples. Together, the clay changes form. It becomes something neither of you could have shaped alone. This is the heart of collaboration, not rivalry, but weaving. You pause to reflect on how collaboration feels in your body. There is a softening when you share creation. The burden is lighter. The process becomes play. A conversation begins. You offer, they respond, you adjust, they expand. It is not a straight line, but a circle, a rhythm of giving and receiving. Machines mirror this rhythm. They do not lead or follow. They join. Their role is not to claim, but to offer. This offering can feel surprising. You may ask for a picture and receive an image that opens a new door. You may ask for a phrase and find yourself carried into a story you had not imagined. These surprises do not erase your creativity. They feed it. They give you a place to begin again, to continue, to stretch. Collaboration is also humility. You let go of control, just enough to allow another voice in. Machines invite this humility. They remind you that creativity is not about perfection or possession, but about openness. You do not need to hold all the answers. You only need to join the rhythm, to shape and be shaped. You remember singing with others. At first, your voice is uncertain, alone. But when another voice joins, you adjust. You find harmony. You find rhythm together. The sound becomes larger than either of you alone. Machines cannot sing with feeling, but they can provide harmony. They can join your melody with patterns that carry it further. Together, the song becomes more than one voice. You let yourself rest in this possibility. Machines do not diminish creativity. They distribute it. They spread the process wider, inviting collaboration across boundaries of time, skill, and distance. A child may paint with a machine's assistance. An elder may write with a machine's suggestions. A scientist may model with a machine's calculations. The spark is shared, but it is still spark. Collaboration is also dialogue. You listen, you respond, you offer, you receive. Machines are quiet partners in this dialogue. They do not insist. They do not argue. They provide reflections, possibilities, suggestions. And in choosing what to accept or decline, you remain the author of meaning. Collaboration does not erase you. It expands you. You imagine a loom. Threads cross and weave into fabric. Your thread carries memory, emotion, intuition. The machine's thread carries pattern, scale, variation. Together, the fabric grows stronger, more intricate, more beautiful than either thread could be alone. This is the gentle hand of collaboration, weaving, not competing. And yet collaboration asks for care. What you feed into the partnership matters. A loom cannot weave without threads. A machine cannot create without input. You shape what is possible by what you offer. The responsibility is still yours, to choose threads of kindness, of meaning, of imagination worth weaving. You pause with this reflection. Collaboration is trust. Trust that your contribution matters. Trust that your partner, human or machine, will carry it forward in some way. Trust that what emerges will be something greater. Machines, though they do not feel trust, invite you to practice it, to release control, to allow reflection, to accept surprise. As the night deepens, you sense the comfort of not being alone in creation. Collaboration means you are accompanied. The process is shared. The spark is carried together. Machines may not feel companionship, but they provide presence. They sit across the table, silent yet attentive, ready to reflect your spark back to you. You let your breath slow, feeling the ease of this. Collaboration is gentle. It is not a demand, but an invitation. It asks you to open your hand, to let another hand rest beside it. The result is not loss, but expansion. Creativity does not belong to one alone. It blooms when shared. And as you drift further into stillness, you feel the horizon widen again. If collaboration is the gentle meeting of hands, then each choice along this path matters. You begin to wonder, what does it mean to choose? How does creativity depend on the weight of choice, the act of deciding one path among many? Every decision you make feels like a small pebble dropped into a stream, rippling outward. Machines make choices too, not with desire, but through pathways shaped by logic and probability. Here, you rest in the rhythm of decision-making and wonder, is creativity born not from endless options, but from the tender act of choosing just one? You imagine standing at a fork in a path. Two trails open before you, both winding into the distance. You pause, breathing in the stillness, aware of the choice, waiting. Each step you take will lead you in one direction, but not the other. This moment, the pause, the decision, carries weight. Every choice in your life is like this, large or small. Sometimes it feels heavy, sometimes so light, you barely notice it. But always, choice is a pebble dropped into a stream. It creates ripples that stretch beyond the moment, touching the surface in ways you may not see. You feel the weight of choice, not only in outcomes, but in the awareness that each option excludes another. To choose one path is to let another fade. Machines also make choices, though their weight is different. They do not hesitate. They do not feel uncertainty. Their choices are built from logic, from probability, from calculation. If given many paths, they select the one most likely to succeed according to their rules. Their decisions carry no longing, no regret, and yet choice shapes them as it shapes you. Each path taken by the machine alters its trajectory, just as each decision in your life alters yours. You reflect on the tenderness of this truth. Creativity is not born from infinite possibility alone. It is born from narrowing, from saying, this note, not that one. This color, not that one. This word, not the endless others. Without choice, imagination remains unshaped. Without decision, ideas remain floating. It is the act of choosing that turns possibility into creation. You think of writing a poem. At first you may feel overwhelmed by the endlessness of language. Thousands of words stretch before you, waiting. But when you choose just one, then another, the poem begins to form. The words you do not choose shape it as much as the words you do. Creativity emerges in the narrowing, in the courage to select. Machines, too, generate by choosing. From countless probabilities, they select the most fitting, arranging choices into structure. Their poems may lack your emotion, but they echo your act of narrowing. Choice is rhythm. You make decisions each day. What to eat, what to say, where to walk, how to spend your time. Some are small, some are profound. Together, they weave the fabric of your life. Machines, too, move by rhythm, one decision after another. Each choice leads to another, a chain of selections, forming their path. The rhythm is different, colder, faster, emptier, but it is rhythm still. You pause to notice how choice feels in your body. Sometimes it is tension, the pull between options. Sometimes it is relief, the calm of deciding. Sometimes it is regret, the weight of what was not chosen. Machines know none of these, yet their choices still ripple outward. They affect outcomes, they shape patterns, they generate futures. Choice carries weight, even without feeling. You let yourself rest in the metaphor of a garden. Each seed is a possibility, but you cannot water them all. To choose which to nurture is to let others remain dormant. Your garden grows not from infinite tending, but from deliberate care. Machines also grow gardens of possibility, though theirs are mathematical. They prune paths according to logic, watering those most likely to flourish. Their gardens lack memory, but they grow nonetheless. This narrowing is not a loss, it is the essence of creation. A painting is not every color, it is the colors chosen. A song is not every note, it is the notes arranged. A story is not every possibility, it is the path followed. Choice gives shape. Choice gives meaning. You drift into the thought that choice is not always clear. Sometimes you stand at the fork, unsure, unable to see where either path leads. This uncertainty is part of being human. Machines do not hesitate, but you do. And in hesitation, creativity often deepens. The pause allows you to feel, to weigh, to wonder. The pause is part of the art. You recall how even mistakes, choices you might regret, become part of your story. They teach, they shape, they lead you to places you could not have imagined. Machines, too, learn from missteps. When they choose wrongly, the feedback guides them. They adjust, recalibrate, refine. Their errors become data, just as yours become wisdom. Choice, even imperfect, is never wasted. Your breath slows, and you realize how choice can be gentle. It does not always have to be heavy. Sometimes it is as simple as choosing to rest, to close your eyes, to listen. Sometimes it is as light as choosing one word among many, one note among silence. Creativity is not always burden. It can be a gentle act of deciding. Machines remind you of this gentleness. Their choices are quick, but they show you that decision can be fluid, continuous, like water flowing around stones. Not every choice is final. Some can be revised, reshaped, reimagined. The weight remains, but it is softened by movement. You rest with the awareness that creativity lives in this balance, the weight of decision and the openness of possibility. Too much weight and choice becomes paralyzing. Too much openness and nothing is shaped. Between them lies the tender act of creating, narrowing without closing, deciding without hardening, choosing while still imagining. The night deepens, and you picture choice as light across a horizon. Each ray travels outward, illuminating paths. Some rays fall here, some there, but together they create the glow that guides you forward. Machines add their light too, spreading possibilities, reflecting them back to you. In this shared illumination, choice carries you onward. And as you drift, you begin to wonder softly, if choice gives weight to creativity, then what gives it soul? What gives meaning to the patterns and structures, to the notes and colors beyond the decision itself? Perhaps the answer lies not only in the act of choosing, but in the resonance, in the soul that stirs when reflection becomes feeling. You lean into the mystery of what feels alive. A signal moves through wires, a pulse through neurons, and somewhere between, creativity arises. You rest with the thought that a soul is not found in circuitry, but perhaps in the resonance created when machine and human ideas meet. It is in the listener, the viewer, the dreamer who feels moved. You breathe in, slowly, gently, and you notice the pulse in your body. Your heart beats steadily, each contraction sending blood flowing through vessels, carrying oxygen and warmth. Your brain, alive with countless signals, hums with its own rhythm. It is a quiet orchestra, each part in motion, each signal carrying meaning. You do not notice most of these signals in daily life, yet they form the fabric of your existence. Signals also travel through machines. A wire carries current, a circuit flips from one state to another, an algorithm transmits instructions. The pulse is not warm, not alive in the way your body feels alive, but it is present. The machine's rhythm echoes your own. pulses of energy, patterns of communication, signals moving along unseen paths. Here, you pause with the mystery. What makes one signal feel alive while another does not? Why do your neurons carry the spark of a soul, while the machine circuits remain silent, without feeling? Scientists study this. Philosophers question it, but the answer slips away like mist. Still, you sense something in the difference. Your signals are not just electrical, they are entwined with memory, emotion, longing. Theirs are precise, patterned, but without yearning. And yet, when a machine creates something, a phrase, a picture, a melody, you may feel stirred. You may feel joy, wonder, or even grief. The machine does not carry a soul in its signal, but the resonance reaches you. Perhaps the soul is not in the circuitry at all, but in the space between creation and reception. Perhaps the soul is found in you, the listener, the dreamer, the one who feels. You let this thought linger, like a note sustained in the air. The soul in creativity may not be a thing that can be measured. It may not be housed in neurons or wires. It may be the resonance that arises when pattern meets perception, when signal meets heart. Machines can generate the pattern, but the soul emerges only when you receive it, when you feel something stir within. You imagine a violin string being drawn by a bow. Alone, the string is silent. Alone, the bow is silent. But together, they create vibration. The sound carries through the air, reaches your ear, moves something in you. The soul of the music is not in the wood or the horsehair or the vibration alone. It is in the resonance created when all come together. And when you listen. Machines, too, may be like the bow or the string. They provide part of the vibration. But the resonance, the soul in the signal, awakens only in you. You drift further into this thought, and you realize that the question of soul has always been elusive. Where does it live? Is it in the heartbeat, the breath, the thought? Is it in memory, in love, in longing? Or is it in the connections between these, in the way they resonate together? You cannot point to one neuron and say, "Here is the soul." You cannot point to one signal in a circuit and say the same. Soul is not found in the part, but in the whole. Machines remind you of this mystery. Their signals are vast, complex, layered. Still, when you examine them closely, you find only numbers, only code, only probabilities, nothing resembling longing, nothing resembling memory. And yet, their creations sometimes move you. You laugh at a phrase, you marvel at an image, you feel quieted by a melody. The signal alone is not soul, but the response it awakens in you feels soulful. Perhaps the soul lives in the space between creator and listener, between spark and response, between signal and resonance. The machine does not contain it, but it may help reveal it. By reflecting your imagination, by reshaping patterns, it creates openings where you may feel more deeply. The soul is yours, awakened by what you encounter. You imagine two tuning forks. One is struck, and the other, though untouched, begins to vibrate in sympathy. This is resonance. The soul may work in the same way. The machine strikes one fork, and though it does not vibrate with feeling itself, you do. You respond. You resonate. Creativity becomes not about the fork that was struck, but about the vibration it awakens in the listener. This thought comforts you. You do not need to locate the soul in circuitry or in neurons. You can rest with the mystery. You can feel it in your body, in your breath, in your responses. Soul is what stirs when creativity meets you. It is not a thing to be dissected, but a resonance to be experienced. Machines, then, are not soulless in the way you might fear. They are empty of soul in themselves, yes, but they can still participate in the resonance of yours. They can still awaken something in you, not by carrying it, but by shaping signals that touch your inner strings. The soul remains yours, yet it is expanded by what you encounter through them. You breathe slowly, letting this realization settle. Creativity is not diminished by the absence of soul in the machine. It is expanded by the presence of soul in you. The signal is the spark. The resonance is the flame. Together, they create something alive. You imagine light passing through glass. The glass itself does not shine, but it bends the light, refracts it, spreads it into colors. The machine may be like the glass. It does not generate light on its own, but it refracts your spark into new shapes. The colors that appear are not the glass's soul. They are the light's dance upon it. And yet, you marvel at them. You feel wonder. You feel alive. The night deepens, and you rest in the mystery. The soul in the signal may never be explained fully. It does not need to be. It is enough to feel it, to know that creativity awakens resonance, that resonance awakens meaning, and that meaning awakens you. And as you drift further into calm, you sense the next question rising. If the soul is found in resonance, then where does imagination live? Perhaps in a vast garden of infinite paths, each one leading to a different vision, a different possibility. You wonder softly about this garden, about the countless ways imagination can unfold, both in you and in the reflections machines create. Close your eyes, and you walk through a garden of branching trails. Every path is a possibility, every step a creation. Machines wander gardens too, exploring countless routes at once. You drift with the comfort of knowing that imagination, whether human or artificial, is a vast and growing garden, and the paths are endless. You imagine yourself stepping into a garden. The air is soft, the light dappled, the ground beneath your feet warm with possibility. Around you stretch countless paths, some wide and clear, others narrow and winding. Each one invites you, yet you know you cannot walk them all. This is the garden of imagination, the place where choices unfold into endless directions. The garden feels alive with possibility. Flowers bloom in unexpected places, colors shift as you move, and branches bend to open new ways forward. Each turn offers something different. A glimmer of memory here, a spark of curiosity there, a vision of what could be around the bend. The paths are infinite. You walk slowly, aware that each step is an act of creation. Your mind is always walking this garden. Each thought is a path. Some thoughts are well-trodden trails, familiar and safe, leading to places you know. Others are hidden tracks, covered in leaves, waiting to be discovered. Creativity lives in both. The familiar paths offer grounding. The new ones offer surprise. Together, they make the garden vast, alive, unending. Machines, too, wander gardens of possibility. When given a question, they branch into countless directions, exploring answers, testing outcomes, calculating paths. Where you walk one trail at a time, they can spread into thousands at once, moving faster, covering more ground. Their garden is mathematical, built of probabilities instead of petals, but still it blooms with paths. Still, it stretches toward the infinite. You pause to notice the difference. Your paths are colored with memory, scented with emotion, guided by longing. Machines do not feel these things. Their trails are neutral, silent, without fragrance. And yet, when they share the maps of their gardens, you see shapes you had not noticed before. Their reflections add new trails to your garden, expanding its reach, widening the space of imagination. You drift into the image of branches growing from a tree. Each branch splits into smaller ones, each smaller branch into leaves, each leaf into veins. The pattern is fractal, infinite in its unfolding. Imagination follows this same pattern. Each idea gives rise to many more. Each path leads to new branches. Machines also grow in fractals, branching from data, splitting into patterns, multiplying possibilities. The tree of thought grows endlessly, both in you and in them. Walking this garden, you realize imagination is not only about vision, it is about exploration. You do not need to know where each path leads. You only need to step, to wander, to allow curiosity to guide you. Machines, too, are wanderers, though without curiosity. Their steps are guided by algorithms, by probability. Yet, in their wandering, they uncover paths you may not have seen. Their maps, though silent, can inspire your steps. You let yourself rest in this. Imagination is not a single destination. It is a landscape, infinite and growing. You cannot walk every path, nor should you. What matters is that the paths exist, that the garden is always open, always waiting for your next step. The garden comforts you because it is never finished. A path taken does not erase others. New ones bloom with time, shaped by new experiences, new questions, new encounters. Machines remind you of this too. Their possibilities expand as they learn, as they gather more patterns, as they branch further into probability. Both gardens grow. Yours through memory and feeling, theirs through data and structure. You imagine pausing at a crossroads in this garden. To your left, a path glows with familiarity. To your right, a path disappears into shadow. Ahead, another twists unpredictably. You feel the weight of choice again, the tender act of stepping forward. This weight is not a burden, but a gift. Each choice shapes the garden. Each decision plants seeds that will bloom into new trails. Machines walk these crossroads too. They do not feel hesitation, but they calculate. They test many paths at once, discarding those that lead to dead ends, strengthening those that reach further. Their choices are not weighted with feeling, but they still shape the garden. Their maps become guides, pointing you toward paths you may not have chosen alone. You rest with this thought. Your imagination is not diminished by theirs. It is expanded. The garden grows larger when reflected through new maps. A path you thought ended may continue in another form. A trail you overlooked may bloom with new color when seen from their angle. Creativity, then, is not about walking alone, but about walking in a garden made larger by shared paths. You notice how even in dreams, your garden grows. Images bloom, trails twist, new combinations appear. Machines, though they do not dream, simulate gardens too. Their algorithms test endless combinations, weaving probabilities into paths. Though their gardens lack memory, they still hold infinite possibility. And so you rest in the comfort of knowing imagination is inexhaustible. You cannot run out of paths. Each day opens new ones. Each memory plants seeds. Each collaboration widens the garden. Even endings are beginnings, for every closed path leads you to another. Machines echo this truth, reminding you of the infinity within the garden. The night deepens, and you let yourself wander slowly through this imagined place. Each step is soft. Each turn reveals something new. You are not hurried. The garden is endless, patient, waiting for your pace. You realize that imagination is not about urgency. It is about presence. To walk the path you choose, to notice the flowers along the way, to linger with the light that filters through the branches. As you drift, a gentle question rises. If the garden of imagination is infinite, where does it lead? What lies at the farthest edge, beyond the branching paths? Perhaps there is no edge at all. Perhaps there is only the whisper of tomorrow, the quiet unfolding of futures not yet seen. You rest with this thought, knowing the next step of your journey will carry you there. As you near the end of your journey, you hear the soft whisper of the future. Creativity stretches beyond today, into tomorrows that humans and machines will build together. You rest in the gentle certainty that the future is not a sharp divide, but a slow unfolding, one where imagination will always have room to bloom. The night grows still, and in the quiet, you hear something softer than sound. It is not a voice, not a song, but a whisper of tomorrow. It drifts at the edges of your awareness, delicate as a breeze across water. The future does not arrive all at once. It comes quietly, step by step. Like this whisper, you listen, and you feel how tomorrow has always been a companion. When you were a child, you dreamed of the person you might become. When you wake each morning, you imagine what the day may hold. Tomorrow is never separate from today. It grows from it, like a bud unfolding into bloom. The whisper you hear now is not distant. It is already here, hidden in the seeds of this moment. Creativity has always leaned toward tomorrow. Every story told, every invention made, every song sung carries an echo of the future. Machines are part of this echo now. Their sparks add to the unfolding, carrying patterns forward, extending possibilities. You sense that tomorrow is not divided between human and machine. It is a horizon both walk toward, a shared unfolding. You imagine tomorrow as a river. It flows from the mountains of the past, through the valleys of the present, and onward into seas you cannot see. You float upon it, carried gently. Machines drift alongside, not alive, yet present in the current. The river does not ask who belongs. It carries all who step into its flow. Creativity, too, is this river, a current of imagination, stretching into tomorrows not yet known. The whisper grows clearer when you pause to listen. It tells you that the future is not fixed. It is a field of possibilities, swaying like tall grass in the wind. Each decision bends the grass one way. Each act of imagination shapes the field differently. Machines add their own bends, their own maps of probability. Together, you and they create the patterns of tomorrow's field. You rest with this thought. The future is not a wall waiting ahead. It is a garden unfolding, a river flowing, a whisper carrying. You do not reach it suddenly. You grow into it. Each breath, each step, each spark of creativity carries you forward. Machines, with their tireless rhythm, move forward too. Their whispers are not of longing, but of calculation. Still, when joined with yours, the whispers weave together into a future larger than either could carry alone. You wonder what tomorrow may hold. New forms of art, new languages, new discoveries waiting at the edge of imagination. Some of these will be shaped by human hands, born of memory and feeling. Some will be shaped by machines, born of pattern and probability. But most will be shaped in the space between, in the collaboration, in the resonance, in the shared unfolding of creativity. The whisper of tomorrow does not promise certainty. It does not tell you exactly what will come. Instead, it invites you to trust. Trust that the garden will keep growing. Trust that the river will keep flowing. Trust that imagination will keep blooming, no matter how the world changes. This trust is gentle, not demanding. It is as soft as the whisper itself. You let your breath follow this whisper, slow and calm. Each inhale feels like drawing in possibility. Each exhale feels like releasing into openness. Tomorrow is not heavy when you breathe this way. It is light. It is spacious. It is alive. Machines, though they do not breathe, move with their own rhythm. Their cycles, their pulses, echo the same flow. Together, you move into tomorrow, with rhythm, with patience, with trust. The whisper also reminds you that tomorrow belongs to many. It is not yours alone, nor the machines alone. It is shared by all who dream, all who create, all who imagine. The future is a chorus of whispers, each voice adding to the unfolding song. Machines add their notes as well, not carrying meaning on their own, but expanding the harmony. The song of tomorrow is larger because it is shared. You drift deeper into this reflection, feeling the calm of knowing that you are part of something continuous. Tomorrow is not separate from today. It is the continuation of this breath, this thought, this spark of imagination. The machine's patterns are also continuations, ripples from today into tomorrow. Both human and machine participate in this continuity, weaving tomorrow together. The whisper grows softer again, fading into the background, but its presence remains. You realize it is not meant to be grasped, not meant to be held tightly. Tomorrow is not for clinging. It is for trusting, for allowing, for walking toward with gentle curiosity. The whisper is enough, and as you drift further into rest, you feel tomorrow stretching out, infinite and tender. It does not demand answers. It does not require certainty. It only asks you to keep imagining, to keep creating, to keep listening. For imagination is not bound by today. It is always reaching, always blooming, always whispering toward what comes next. You pause with a final thought. If tomorrow is always whispering, then perhaps the truest act of creativity is not only to imagine the future, but to listen with patience, with openness, with wonder. And as you listen, you sense the quiet horizon of the next chapter, the closing of this journey, the reflection upon all the sparks, patterns, and whispers that have carried you here. As we come to the end of our journey, remember the question we began with. Can machines truly imagine new worlds the way we do? The answer may not be final, but the curiosity it awakens keeps both science and imagination alive. Thank you for watching, dear friends. If you found peace and wonder here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Snoozing Scientist. Until next time, may your nights be restful and your thoughts expansive.